All right, this Iran piece still starting to look a little better than it did yesterday now that we know a little bit more. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You hear the hesitation in my voice, which I know we're not going to get the perfect deal, or I shouldn't expect the perfect deal, and I don't. I definitely prefer this to war. I was against the war before it started. I just wanted to be over. But the terms do look a little bit better than they did yesterday. We go to J.D. Vance, who had a press conference, and I'm missing the Carolyn Levitt. She's out on baby leave. And so they have a bunch of awkward people who don't normally do this all day, every day out there. And it makes a difference. But here's J.D. Vance. Number one, just sort of explaining, hey, good to see you. Here's the update on the ceasefire. We actually had Iran not shooting at ships for one whole night. It's the damnedest thing.
I think the president's peace plan in Iran is already bearing real fruits for the American people. Last night, 12.5 million barrels of oil went through the Strait of Hormuz. That is a high since the beginning of the conflict. Oil prices are down nearly at their level from the pre-war conflict. Gas prices dropped below $4 a gallon today for the first time since the conflict. And importantly, they're going to keep falling further given how low oil prices are. On the military side, the Iranians, for the second night in a row, did not shoot at any ships in the Strait of Hormuz so far. They are honoring their end of the commitment. And on the blockade, CENTCOM has allowed north of a dozen ships to go through our naval blockade, and so we're also honoring our end of the early part of the agreement. On the military side, things that are still true and will be true whether the Iranians comply with the rest of the deal or not. Number one, their nuclear program has been completely destroyed. Their capacity for enrichment, the facilities at which they were using to develop enrichment and develop a potential nuclear weapon, those facilities are still destroyed. Their conventional military is still destroyed. Their capacity to threaten their neighbors is still largely gone. And now we see whether they are willing to comply with the next step of the president's peace plan.
Okay, so that kind of fills out some of the details we were wondering about on the James Show yesterday. And it sounds like he didn't say this directly, but the big question mark that you and I still have is the uranium. Are we going to get the uranium? Are they going to get to keep the uranium, but they have to blend it down? So now it's not a almost weapons grade uranium. It's just an energy grade uranium. I guess there's different flavors for that, like super unleaded and regular unleaded. Maybe they still have leaded over there. Remember leaded? Also, the fact that no one's shooting at any ships in the Straits of Hormuz. That's a sign that they're actually going to honor their side of the deal, at least somewhat. And so people are back to business. Stock market is loving its all-time high, thinking about setting another one in a couple hours when it closes. Price of oil is almost back down to where it started. It was at $69 a barrel when this whole thing started. Just by coincidence, don't be a child. And I think when I checked before I went to lunch, it was 71 and some change. So still a little over, but what is that, like 3% over? Something to that effect? Things a little better. All right, now the second big question mark that was hanging over this whole situation is, are you as a taxpayer going to be on the hook for any of this rebuilding costs? When they talk about $300 billion to rebuild Iran, is any of that coming from your tax money?
As you all know, the part of the peace plan, the part of this MOU that I think have been most misrepresented by certain parts of the media is the idea that the Iranians get all these benefits. You will hear things about $300 billion or $24 billion or this or that number of money or amount of money. And the simple fact is that the only way the Iranians get any of those resources, not a single penny, by the way, from the United States of America under any circumstances, but the only way that they would ever get any benefit of the bargain is if they comply fully and change their behavior. And so you really have a win-win situation for the United States of America. If the Iranians don't change their behavior, their military and their nuclear program is still destroyed. If they do change their behavior, then they are going to have a transformative relationship with the Middle East, and the Middle East will have a transformative relationship with the people of Iran. That's a win for the American people and for the President of the United States, regardless of which option the Iranians ultimately choose. We obviously want them to choose the right option. The interesting thing about their system, and I think it's important for the American people to appreciate, this point in particular is that there are real divisions within their country about how exactly to proceed. And what we've seen over the last couple of months is that the pragmatists within the Iranian system, the people who really do want to transform their relationship with the Middle East and with the world, those people are winning the argument.
All right, and we have this report that was on Fox News right before the James show started, where it looks like the Ayatollah has actually reached out and said that we need to do some face-to-face meetings. Well, do you have a face-to-face meeting with? And I'm not like saying that to make fun of him, like, haha, we blew his face off. But when he talks about the face-to-face meetings, is he talking about him? So that I thought that was interesting. A couple of recent tweets from Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei. He tweeted, what was this? Almost 2 hours ago. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, to the passionate and loyal nation of Iran, as you have been informed, a memorandum of understanding was signed between the presidents of Iran and the United States of America. Now, that is the first source that I saw, because this happened when I was eating lunch. Did I hear that the memorandum of understanding has now been officially signed first from the Ayatollah? I did not expect that. You know, I do expect it to be from like some of the, like influencers or people I follow or my little media friends or reporter friends or Fox News or Dallas Express. Nope. Heard it first from the Ayatollah himself, or at least his X feed. Coming up next, Colonel Grant Newsham is going to talk about the X's and O's on whether or not this ceasefire can actually hold. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, so we got an Iran peace deal. Do you trust it? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Three funny guys on from 11 to 2. My next guest, returning to the James Show, Colonel Grant Newsham. Glad to have you back on. And it seems to be like the first night of the New Deal went well. No boats got shot at. It looks like we're back open for business. Will it last? Well, I've seen this be described as, for us, it is an Iran peace deal that ends the war. For the Ayatollah, this is a strategic pause in a forever war. Right? Well, how else do we get the uranium? So explain this part of the Iran deal where they have to blend down their uranium. I guess the uranium they have is too spun up to be used for energy purposes, but it's not quite to weapons grade. Mm-hmm. Well, Colonel Grant, the Ayatollah said he recommends a face-to-face signing. Does he mean himself? Is he actually going to show himself in public, or does he mean he's going to send the prime minister or president or some other guy? Right? How does this fit into the scenario you lined out in your book when China attacks? Us using a whole lot of resources over there. All right, this is Colonel Grant Newsham. You can find him. I follow him on Twitter at Newsham Grant. And that book I mentioned, When China Attacks, you can find that on Amazon. Center for Security Policy, Grant Newsham. Thank you, sir. Coming up next, the ringleader in the terror attack plot at the White House UFC event, Mexican illegal immigrant. Details coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. So the ringleader of the terror plot for the UFC White House fight night. You're not going to believe this. A Mexican illegal immigrant. Are we in a simulation? Because we can't keep getting it this right, this much. I mean, without it being questionable, right? Am I really talking to you over like the radio, or are you and I like just plugged into some pod of goo, some pink translucent goo pod, and we're part of the power station for the robots after they've taken over? A Mexican illegal alien. You've got to be kidding me. So our ringleader in the plot, I mean, there's a lot of people that are rolled up in this plot. I think we've already had 5 arrests. They were kind of slow rolling the identities of them. Why? Well, now we know why. Really hurts the narrative, doesn't it? Because you were told you need to be scared of white rural rage. Do I have to play the montage? Don't make me play the white rural rage montage again. I'm actually getting tired of playing it because that's how bad that prediction was. That is how failed that worldview has become. All right, I'll play white rural rage just one time.
White rural rage.
The threat that white rural voters pose to the country. They're the most racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, and anti-gay geodemographic group in the country. Second, they're the most conspiracist group. Third, they're also the most strongly white nationalist and white Christian nationalist. And fourth, they are most likely to excuse or justify violence as an acceptable alternative to peaceful public discourse.
So,
you know what we don't do? Terror plots at the White House, sir. Newsflash. I mean, how many of these terrible events, the mass shooting that happened last week in Midland, you already forgot about that. They memory hold that one quick. I don't care if 15 people got shot. He's an illegal immigrant. We've got to hide this. Well, this one's going to get hidden too. And this one, I mean, how do you memory hold this? You think that's got to be hard. There was a big event. There was going to be a terror plot, and there were a whole lot of people involved. Bro, we haven't had the discussion about the shooting in Butler. We haven't had a real shooting about a real discussion about the almost shooting. I mean, the guy got shot at in Florida, the other attempt on his life. We haven't had a conversation about the guy who died trying to assassinate Trump. He even got shots off at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Now we have this one. We're not having real conversations about any of these, so expect it to be memory hold. Also, we have a lot of their group chats that have been shared. And so if we do want to dig into this, if we do get people interested and they go do a little bit of research for themselves, this is not going to work out well for the narrative. Now, they talk about some stuff that sort of sounds like what you and I believe in. They want to restore the old republic. Our constitutional republic has been stolen. Except he's saying by corporations. Oh, no. And then politicians and foreign actors. I mean, they could mean Elon Musk or something by that one. But they've usurped power from the people and concentrated at the top to the point we now live in a late stage democracy. That's almost a direct quote from AOC. When I say restore the old republic, I'm not talking about the flaws that we had in past times, but the fact the constitutional republic, blah, 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 people had the power. What was that other part that really had it going on, making you know that, you know, I hate to try and push this like we've got to put this guy in a box so he can stay in our political opponents. But he was talking about some other things that are left-leaning, shall we say. He wanted this to be a trigger event. He wanted there to actually be 5 different events. The initial attack, and then when people scattered, you'd have snipers set up on different evacuation points where you knew people would go, and there would be multiple different, like, just pools of shooting at people from the 5th floor in someone's apartment building. And they even talked about, like, we might have to bound the people who are occupying that space while we do the operation. Then there would be a second wave ground force, and they were expecting other people to rise up once they started this. But the crazy part is an illegal alien foreigner just invaded your country, conspiring with others to assassinate your president, and hopefully enough of other top officials to overthrow your government. Doesn't this sound a lot more like an insurrection than January 6th? 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Rich Valdez. He was on WBAP for years as part of the Mark Levin show. He's since split out and got his own show. And he's going to talk about the UFC event, the terror plot. And also, He lives in New York, and we're going to ask him what it's like living under Mom Donnie. He's got some great stories for you coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. So the ringleader of the terror attack on the White House at the UFC event, an illegal immigrant Mexican. Who would have known? My next guest is going to have some hot opinions about that, the Iran peace deal, and also give us an insight of what it's like trying to get by in Zoran Mamdani's New York City.
New York City!
It's our friend Rich Valdez. He was on the airwaves here on WBAP for years, part of the Mark Levin show. I heard him filling in 1,000 times for him. Now he's got his own show, so check that out online. But Rich, welcome to the show. Well, first, Rich, let's do the biggest story of the day is the Iran peace deal. How do you feel about this? Are you like 50-50 or are you generally positive? So, Rich, the White House UFC fight had a terror plot that was thwarted just not long before it was set to go off. And at first, I was not interested in the story because you could say that about almost every big public event. Oh, there was someone who was threatening to blow it up and they had to go arrest him or check it out. But the more that comes out about this, the more like this was more than just some weirdos talking on a signal chat. They have groups like almost like different cells that were communicating with each other across different states. They had already acquired a lot of materials, weapons, ammo. And the ringleader of this plot was a Mexican illegal immigrant who was given DACA status. He's one of the dreamers. We're talking with Rich Valdez. What's it like living under Zoran Mamdani's New York City? We're on the outside. We're way safe down here in Texas, just looking at it from afar. What does it look like close up? What? Whoa. You know what? Two shows ago, I was playing what Robert De Niro said this weekend. He was listening why he doesn't love America.
Later, the
Listen.
letter stated, regardless of our political affiliation or whether we engage in politics or not, we
Here, let me fast forward a little bit. Get to the good part where he goes through the list of why he doesn't love America.
I can't love a country that starts stupid and inhumane wars.
Love his movies. Yeah. All right, this is Rich Valdez. Go check out his show. You can find it online if you do a quick search for it. This is America. Rich Valdez, thanks for being on the James Show, sir. All right, coming up next, the absolutely horrific revelations about the UK Muslim rape gangs coming up next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. This report on the UK Muslim rape gangs is absolutely horrific. And when I talk about this, I want you to think of Frisco. I'm James Parker. This is the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. No applause here because we're not about to have a good time. This is a serious report because I'm tired of being dismissed for the very real complaints and concerns that are being brought up about the absolute invasion demographically of Frisco and other areas of North Texas by immigrants from the other side of the world that don't share our values, that aren't assimilating, have no damn intention of assimilating, are creating parallel societies, cultures within ours. We're being colonized. And I'm tired of people dismissing it. Like, what's your problem? What's the matter with that? What's the deal? Well, first, I like to play the guys that are okay with rape. Do you rape girls? Do we need to be bringing in these guys right here?
You rape girls?
Some of us, yeah, some of us.
Do you know how many times you've done that? How many times have you raped girls?
I did it maybe 2 or 3 times.
I did it once. I did it 4 times.
Okay, so the horrific part about that interview, it continues for a minute where they go into detail and they give you all some great tips for your next raping adventure. It's horrifying. These aren't some kind of one-off fringe exceptions to the rules. This was the mainstream of thought for a giant chunk of the millions and millions of immigrants that England has brought in over the last 50 years. And so now finally, reports keep coming out over the last 20 years where this girl speaks out and you hear about this really horrible story. And then this story sounds so, gosh, I can't even believe that happened to anybody. And you don't want to believe that this could be happening on a mass scale. You want to believe that, hey, in any country, there's going to be some bad people and some of them are going to be rapists. And, you know, that's just a part of any society. It's not anything endemic to one person or one race or one culture, or no race or culture is better than or worse than other ones. And you want to try and believe that. But you keep getting pushed back. When it's coming up a couple years ago, here's a report about a year and a half ago. This is our boy Piers Morgan, who has Mehdi Hassan as his guest. He used to have a show on MSNBC when it was MSNBC. And this is them last January, so about 18 months ago. Talking about these conspiracy theories about these wide-ranging groups of Muslim men that are grooming and raping women. It's just ridiculous and racist.
From those who do want a big further inquiry, is that actually it was a very specific section of the community, a very specific section of the Muslim community, and it was British Pakistani men who they believe were operating under some warped cultural thing, which they felt entitled them to behave this way.
Well, that's not proven, right? But it's very interesting that you pick a sample and then say, these are the towns we're talking about, they're all brown. Well, why can't we talk about Cornwall or Glasgow or the West Midlands? I'm saying this is a phenomenon that happens nationwide. Why are we defining child sex crimes and grooming gangs by race unless you're a racist or trying to make political hay out of this?
Yeah, that's your defense. You're racist. So how many was it? Was it just a handful here and there? Was it a few hundred? Was it a few thousand? Well, they did a report. They did a study. They're finally releasing that report, and there's some big hearing in Parliament or whatever goofy name they have for it, piddly wickets or something English like that. And it's worse than you could have ever imagined.
Today, we confront one of the gravest moral failures in British history. For decades, children across the United Kingdom, from as young as 4 years old, were groomed, trafficked, raped, beaten, tortured, drugged, impregnated, criminalised, murdered, and psychologically destroyed by organised groups of men and women. Children were degraded, they were humiliated, they were controlled through violence, threats, drugs, alcohol, and terror. They were forced to dig their own graves, petrol poured over them and set on fire, scriptures from the Quran read out whilst they were being gang raped. Young children placed inside microwaves, ovens, and freezers in an attempt to murder them. And children forced to abuse other children. Many were passed from rapist to rapist like a piece of meat. Some did not survive their exploitation, suicide, substance abuse, and murder.
Here's what you don't know. That clip is only 1:09. It was originally 2 minutes long. I had to cut out 50 minutes of that because it's describing things that the FCC won't allow me to broadcast. I can't allow the description of acts. I can add, like the general name I can put on there, but if they're describing like a body part goes into something, I can't do that. It's worse than it sounds. That was the good part. That was the legally allowed to play for you part. It's not because there was cussing. It's not like she was dropping F-bombs in there. So a systemic, cultural, repeated phenomenon of Muslim rape gangs, 250,000 almost exclusively white Christian girls were the victims in this. Coming up next, we'll continue with that's just the opening statement from the inquiry from earlier this week. But you're going to hear more about why they did it, how the entire community necessarily has to be complicit. I mean, if you're passing a girl around between four guys, all your neighbors, that means everyone in the neighborhood's in on it. All of their wives are in on it. They're not hiding it. They're not doing it in the basement behind closed doors. This was just an open practice that the wives were okay with too. And then the other thing you're going to hear from this inquiry is how every step of the way, government services that were supposed to prevent this failed them. The immediate cops failed them. The prosecutors failed them. The judges failed them on the sentencing. The CPS workers, the Child Protective Service workers failed them. The other social workers failed them. The foster system failed them. Every instance of government, from the lowest to the top, failed them. More on the terrible report of the UK Muslim rape gangs coming up next. Because I want you, every time you hear one of these stories, I want you to think of Frisco. Not like this could happen in Frisco in 10 years. It's very likely this is happening in Frisco now. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, we're talking about the Muslim grooming gangs, and that almost seems like we're soft pedaling it there. They're the rape gangs. This is the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. After, years of reports and being called conspiracy theories and Tommy Robinson getting thrown in jail for trying to bring this to the public's attention, a report, an investigation has finally been made public in the UK, and there was a hearing about it 2 days ago. And this isn't some side deal. 250,000 white Christian girls were systematically targeted, groomed, raped, and trafficked by Muslim men, mostly of Pakistani origin. This wasn't about your regular old rape like, ooh, I have these urges and I can't control myself. This was a cultural, built into the cake society where rape is not only acceptable, it's encouraged. If you have all these floozy non-Muslim women that are running around and they're not covering their head and they're basically asking for it, well, that's good for the Muslim cause. If you can take those women and you can use them and hopefully impregnate them, and there could be a little sort of genocidal domination at the same time through selective rape. James, why would you say such horrible things? Name a country where they didn't do that. Oh, wow. So here's a little bit more from the opening statements on the report on the UK Muslim rape gangs.
This was never just about sexual gratification or money. It was about power, about domination, about breaking a child's sense of self until they believed escape was impossible and help would never come. Years later, they were told by professionals they must take medication or their children could be removed from their care. If they spoke publicly, they would lose custody. Victims were told they are too damaged by their trauma to care for their own children. They were then removed and placed into the care system and trafficked. Rapists have been invited into the lives of the victims' children. Children born from their crimes were forced into contact and custody with the men that raped their mothers by social workers and the family courts. The professionals who should have protected them did not and still aren't.
And let's go through the failed response. The government is supposed to keep you safe, and if something happens to you, they're supposed to go make it right. I mean, the government's really only supposed to do about 5 things, and that's probably the most important one. Self-defense, standard of weights and measures, a couple other basic things. Originally, the government's not supposed to be in education. They're not supposed to be in healthcare. They're not supposed to be in bike paths. They're not supposed to be in solar panels or windmills. They're not supposed to be doing about 90% of what they do. The one thing they are supposed to be doing, they absolutely failed you on over and over and over. And even if you're being targeted for your race and your religion, their politics was more important.
This inquiry is exposing something equally horrifying: the scale of institutional failure. Warning signs were there, reports were made, patterns emerged, DNA ignored, and evidence destroyed. Yet again and again, professionals dismissed victims as troubled, promiscuous, or consenting. Opportunities to intervene were missed or avoided. Police officers abused and raped the children and handed them back to the men that raped them, while social workers looked the other way, which allowed the predators to thrive. Whistleblowers were targeted, threatened, and silenced.
And I know you're probably not online as much as I am, but if this is news to you, this is not news to me, and this is not news to the people who have been paying any kind of attention to what's going on in the UK, because there's been a lot of prominent people who are shouting about it and have been shouting about it for at least 10 years. People have gone to jail over Tommy Robinson. Hey, he was at the Ken Paxton election night watch party. I met him there. He went to jail for bringing this to the public's attention. Why? Because it was racist and it was divisive and it was ginning up hate against a protected minority. Well, I'm sorry I'm white. Sorry I'm male.
Sorry I'm white. Sorry I'm male. Sorry I'm white. Sorry I'm male. Sorry I'm white. I'm sorry I'm male. Why?
I know, and we're being portrayed as monsters constantly, all day, every day. We're the stupid guy in every TV commercial. Watch TV and tell me if there's a boob or an idiot that, and I don't mean boob like anatomically, I mean like a moron, in a commercial. Tell me if it's almost always a white guy or a straight white guy. Yeah, we're the monsters. Meanwhile, some 14-year-old girl gets picked up in the town square walking by because she doesn't have her head covered by a guy who has 4 friends that he can call and just come over, and we're just going to rape this girl over and over. Do you have 4 friends that you could call to do that? It's the most normal thing in the world in this society, and their wives knew about it, and their children knew that they were part of this. In fact, the wives were also participating in the cussing out of the girls and calling them hussies or whatever. It's worse than you thought. So I'm going to have some audio coming up next from Rupert Lowe, the politician that's trying to lead the Reform UK movement, and also an interview with the Pakistani father of one of the gang rapists that's been arrested in the UK and actually charged with a crime. And you are going to lose sleep when you hear his reaction. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. So what are the odds that they have some of these grooming Muslim rape gangs in Frisco right now? I'm James Parker. This is The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I'm not accusing anyone. I have no evidence of such things other than show me a place on the planet where this hasn't happened, where you get a big concentration of hundreds of thousands of Muslim men who come from a country and a culture and a system of mores and values where it's okay to rape non-Muslim women. In fact, it's celebrated. It's just part of what they do. You know, like how you and the boys will get together this weekend and maybe go to the lake or go fishing or watch some football or watch some soccer or whatever you're going to do. They get together and, hey, I found a blue-eyed, blonde-haired Christian hussy running around without a headscarf on, so I brought her home. Y'all want to come over? We'll just take turns on her and until maybe she dies. We can make her dig her own grave. It'll be great. Ha, ha, ha. This is happening right in front of your face, and this should be the most horrifying, biggest headline in the news, period, point blank in the story, except you know why it's not. This blows up the narrative on about 10 different levels. Let's count the ways this blows up the narrative. Number one, diversity is not our strength. Number two, Christianity is not the religion you need to be worrying about. Number three, unfettered, gigantic swaths of immigration from third world hellholes is a bad thing. Number four, Muslim and Islam and Sharia law, that whole culture, is incompatible with the West. Next bullet point. Our Team Blue neighbors will sweep under the rug, justify, and ignore the most horrific atrocities done even to children in order to further their political power. So this is a great condemnation, especially on the Muslim men that are doing the raping, but for all the little enablers and the bureaucracies and government programs and social workers and police unions and chiefs and mayors and people in parliament, all the way up and down the chain, all you scumbags are so scared of being called racist or so addicted to your own pursuit of power that you are overlooking atrocities. In fact, covering for atrocities. Here's one thing we learned. Brandon Gill had posted this on X. One of the underage victims, her name's Taylor. She said, before they raped me, she means the room full of Muslim men, not just one guy. Before the gang rapists would start, they would chant, Bismillah Hir Rahman Nir Rahim. Translation, in the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful. Isn't that nice? A nice little Muslim prayer before they rape the white Christian girl. It's just the religion of peace, y'all. And you're a racist for questioning it. Around 87% of the people who have already been convicted in these group-based child sexual exploitation cases had distinctively Muslim names. The vast majority of the men involved in these gangs were not even convicted. When you look at the actual witness statements in the case, and if you count the guys that don't get convicted and we don't quite know who that is or we don't have the evidence to pull him into the case, the true proportion of gang members, gang rapists who are Muslims is 95%. Now, what's the Muslim share of the population in England? Is it 95% or is it less than that? So what we have here is little white Christian girls targeted for being white and Christian, literally kidnapped from churches, dragged off, and raped. Who needs to speak up here? White people? Christian people? I would think our atheist and agnostic brothers and sisters would be on our side on this one. Like, hey, I'm not a Christian and, I don't really stand up for Christian values or mores or whatever, but this is wrong. I condemn this. Where are you at on this one, people? No one's going to help us? No one's going to stand up for us? That's cool. Isn't that a great reaction we're getting from all of our non-Christian neighbors right now? And remember, what I told you just sounds horrible and untrue. No, they're not just dragging off girls and raping them and doing horrible things and breaking off bottles into body parts, and that's about as close as I can describe it. No. That can't be true. That sounds too bad to be true. I'm sorry. You need to accept it. And you also need to accept for a big chunk of the planet, this is the most normal thing in the world to them. Some stats on this, because the big number is 250,000 young white Christian girls gang raped, trafficked, groomed, tortured. But the tactics these guys were using, I mean, it's bad that they went as young, girls of all ages, but they would give them drugs. They would give them alcohol. Then they would record it and blackmail them with it. They would get them pregnant. The government would force them to keep the baby and then force the rapist to be in the kid's life. There was a lot of forced conversions. There was a lot of passing around. The UK institutions, the police, the social services, schools, National Health Service. Remember, it's the government. When you go to the hospital in Britain, it's the government that's like, oh, wow, why are we having to pull shards of glass out of a 14-year-old and I can't say where? Wow, look at all this bruising on parts of the body I can't say on the radio. This looks like a whole lot of guys got their hands on a little girl. They turn it over to the cops. If they did, the cops do anything about it? 250,000 British girls. A baby was abused and had cigarettes stubbed out on it while the mother was watching. The baby was killed in front of the mom. There were girls that were set on fire. Sometimes when they were killed, it was live streamed for the amusement of their Muslim brethren across the world. There was dogs involved. I can't explain what else went on with that. There were forced abortions with whatever they had in the room. One of them described knitting needles. They just jammed knitting needles and did a homemade abortion there. All kinds of things were, I don't know, I can't say what they were done with. They were whipped. They were hung upside down. They were suffocated. Parts of it were urinary. Locked in dog cages. Some girls were branded with an M for Muhammad. And that wasn't a one-off. That happened over and over and over. An M for Muhammad. Has anybody ever been branded with a J for Jesus while they were being gang raped by Christians? I mean, ever? I mean, going back to Vlad the Impaler, ever? This is a level of evil and depravity. This is not somebody's religious differences. This is demonic. The girls were mocked for wearing a crucifix during the rapes. They were read passages from the Quran while they were raped. And it's not just like one weirdo community. Some of them were from India. Some of them were from Pakistan. Some of them were Somalia. Some of them were from Iran. Some of them were from Syria. Some of them were from Turkey, Bangladeshi, Iraqis. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I think UK needs to bring back the death penalty. I think anybody who covered this up or turned a blind eye needs to go to jail for a long time. If you were just an ER nurse and you saw this and you didn't tell anyone, you need to go to jail. Because the scariest part is over 1/3 of Frisco has this constituency now in residence. You would be naive to think that this isn't happening here. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, you're about to go on vacation this summer. It's going to involve a lot of physical activity. I mean, if you're just going to Six Flags or Disneyland or Wet n Wild, you're going to do a whole lot of walking. And if you're in pain right now and you're dreading it, maybe QC Kinetics can get you all patched up before you go on vacation. James Parker here for QC Kinetics. That's one of the great things about QC Kinetics is there's no downtime. If you actually go and get like a surgery and they try and repair it that way, then you're gonna have to schedule a surgery. They're gonna have to put you under. They're gonna have to cut you open. Then they're gonna have to sew you back up. Then there's recovery time and there's rehab and there's stitches and there's a big scab and there's none of that with QC Kinetics. You're in, you're out. The first consultation, you're just gonna have a chat. They'll look at you, get you all scanned up. And if you want to start with the treatments, I mean, the treatments really take about 20 minutes. So we can do this and maybe get you into your vacation more active than you thought and have a better time. You're spending all this money to go on vacation. Might as well go to QC Kinetics and enjoy the vacation. So it starts with you calling 972-8610. Call QC Kinetics before you go on vacation. They'll get you all patched up. 972-972-8610. You know, if this Muslim rape gang report from the UK is true, this makes the Epstein case look like a Bill Cosby birthday party. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. And there's no, that wasn't a punchline. You weren't supposed to laugh at that. Matt Walsh tweeted, "This is approximately 1 million times worse than Epstein. It's not even remotely close. The scale, the nature of the crimes, the powerful institutions implicated. And yet something tells me that many of the Epstein obsessives will have nothing at all to say about this." Oh, man, we had a guy on hold that was going to try and defend him. That'd been call back, Hamid. But 250,000 white Christian girls were systemically targeted, trafficked, raped by Muslim immigrant pedophiles in the UK. And it's not just the industrial size, it's the fact that the whole community seemed to be okay with it. And it's a lot like the Somali immigrants. We have a hard time understanding that not everybody thinks like us. Not everybody shares our mores and values. Of course you wouldn't want to rip off social programs that are meant for needy people. Are you kidding? It's the most normal thing in the world for them. So the horrifying part about the Somali immigrants isn't that a few of them ripped off millions and millions of dollars. It's that thousands of them were participating in it and all getting a cut. Well, this is another one. Thousands of Muslims were participating in this. Even the wives of the guys that were doing the raping, some of them were in the room while it was going on. Aaron in Plano, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Hi, James. I read about a third of this, the report that was published by, I think, Rupert Lowe, the MP over there.
Yes, Rupert Lowe.
And I just want to say that any flack you get publicly for this, I stand with you for bringing it to light because it's something important. I mean,
well, no, you don't. And I don't mean to insult you, but I've heard that all my entire radio career. Every time I get fired, no one like pays my rent or anything. I appreciate you saying that, but
I can't do that. But I can say I think that this is important because while we have a lot of people that come here and assimilate and do just fine, actually are quite productive. Assimilate is the key here, and just offloading boxcars of people, plane loads continually over years without guidance, without any kind of
I know where you're going with this because it betrays a self-hatred that also has to be taught. You have to be taught that your society and your religion and your culture isn't excellent. Your traditions and your values and your mores aren't excellent. No, if you come from a country that's just a bunch of racist, sexist, bigot, pedophile, homophobic, transphobic, evil, patriarchal, whatever the booger eaters, what they want to call us, then what's scary about bringing in the Muslim groups?
What's more patriarchal than their system?
That's a good point too. Kind of patriarchal, a little bit anti-Semitic too. I've noticed that as well. Aaron and Plano, this is a great setup for my next soundbite because here's something that was chilling. I picked this up a while back. I don't know if this was a year or two ago, but it has always been under the surface, this storyline. And so this report that came out is really just the expose of what had been called a conspiracy theory for the last 10 years. And listen to this. This is the father of one of the guys in one of the the thousands of gang rape trials. And here he is defending his son, who was convicted of being a gang rapist, a Muslim who targeted white Christian minor girls, raped them in a gang setting. And his father's like, she's asking for it.
And obviously she wasn't a virgin or new to sex.
So you don't see it as rape?
I don't.
And she's 13. She's 13 years old.
Yes, obviously that's some responsibility lies for it. But as far as grooming is concerned, I think that the judge has gone over the board, the jury has gone over the board, the police has gone over the board, just because these lads are Asian.
All right, just put them up against the wall. Put them up against the wall. Problem solved. Everyone who thinks like that, everyone who's just cool with, I have a 14-year-old daughter. She's walking down the street without a hijab on. Is that okay to rape her? Say yes. And then I got a bullet for you, bud. What the heck is this? I can't believe there's not universal condemnation. Hey, for all the feminist crowd, for all the Me Too movement, you have a real Me Too movement. How many straight, white, evil Christian males lost their job for making a untoward, sexually related joke over there, and they were universally condemned and destroyed? Here you have roving bands of racist, religiously discriminatory pedophile rapists. You should have your hair on fire. You people that took out Al Franken for a photo, you should be going nuclear on this, and they're not. They're willing to overlook the rape of your own children for their political purposes. That's almost as bad as the rape. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. A couple clips from Rupert Lowe next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Yeah, so they have the Muslim rape gangs in the UK. Anybody looking at Frisco, wondering how they're doing up there? I'm James Parker. It's The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Sorry to have such a dark topic for you, but the news is the news, and this is serious stuff because that's what I think of. When I read about this new report that just came out this week, 250,000 white Christian girls were targeted, raped, and trafficked by immigrant Muslim men. Then it was swept under the rug by almost every public official and bureaucrat and resource and social service that was supposed to help our kids or their kids. So every social worker, every hospital, because remember, hospitals are all government hospitals. So every nurse, every doctor, every orderly, every intake specialist, they all have to cover this up. They all saw it. So there was a systemic covering up, and not just the rapes and the abuse, but the whistleblowers were retaliated against. And people from the UK have been calling for a study for the numbers on this for years. And one of the frustrating parts about this, because I've wanted to talk about this a lot in the past, but we really don't have numbers. They don't keep statistics on the religion, the demographics, on all the different demographics of all their rapists in England. So we really don't have real numbers on this. So the government can't be trusted to do this research anyway. So tens of thousands of private donors raised over $1 million to do the comprehensive, going through the paperwork study, trying to figure out the real story. And so the nearest they could get is if they could get a mug shot, if they could get a name, then they could go back and sort of backfill the data for years and years and years of cases. It took them a long time to do this, and over $1 million worth of forensic accounting was done on this. And this is the numbers that have come back so far. 250,000 white Christian girls systemically targeted, tortured, raped, trafficked. The Me Too crowd, silent. The Open Borders crowd, silent. The Diversity is Our Strength crowd, silent. People with the pink hats, feminists, silent. It's disgusting. What makes you think this isn't happening in Frisco right now? We have hundreds of thousands of people from similar cultures that have just moved and concentrated in various places right here in North Texas. Do you think there's a 0% chance this is going on? Or do you think there's a chance that this is happening in some safe house in some subdivision in Frisco right now? This is John in Dallas. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Thanks, James. Ex-military, been studying Islam for more than 30 years. First problem is that we have a huge problem is the Democrat Party is in bed with Islam. The Red Green Alliance supports Islam and condones it. They have infiltrated their party, so that's one problem. Second problem is we need to ban Islam in the United States, not just Sharia law, Greg Abbott.
No, you can't. We have freedom of religion. That's what it was founded on. If you want to ban Islam in the United States, just stop Islamists from coming here. But once they're here, we have freedom of religion. And I'm not willing to give that up. I don't think it's a good idea to start giving up constitutional rights because we're scared of Muslims.
Okay, well, then you need to educate yourself on Islam. There's a book by Dr. Peter Hammond.
I don't have to educate myself on them. I already know enough that, wouldn't you agree? How about we just leave them over in Saudi Arabia or in Pakistan or wherever the rape cultures are? Just stay there. Stop importing rapists.
James, Islam is not a religion. It is a political ideology which has a religious component.
I agree. I agree. Wouldn't that be solved if we stopped importing rapists?
Or call Islam what it is, a political ideology.
I am. Okay, it's a political ideology. Can we stop importing rapists?
Yes, and deport all Muslims who practice Islam. Ban Islam. It's not a religion.
Well, do you want to get rid of Dave Chappelle?
No. Why would I want to get rid of Dave?
He's a Muslim. He's a practicing Muslim. What about Casey Kasem? Did we need to deport him and kick him out of America?
Islam is not a religion.
Okay, but my point still stands. America was better with Casey Kasem in it. We don't need to deport anybody who claims to be a Muslim. We need to stop importing people who are okay with rape. There's this whole secular version of Muslim that a lot of them have assimilated into over here. You probably know some of them, like Ice Cube. What are we going to get rid of him? Where would we deport him to? Compton? So no,
You're
how about we
kicking the
not?
can down the road, James?
What?
You're kicking the can down the road. Islam is not a religion. It's about time.
You can keep saying that, but my point
Because
is
it's true.
I am agreeing with you. So why do you keep repeating it? My point is we can just stop them from coming here, deport the people who aren't assimilating. I'm with you. We'll deport a lot of Muslims, but not everyone who claims to be a Muslim needs to be deported. If you're cool with rape, if you're running around in a bathrobe instead of regular old blue jeans like the rest of us, that's a bad sign. But I don't want to give up our freedom of religion and even start down that road of starting to whittle away on the Bill of Rights in order to fight this. How about we just leave it over there so we can have the best of both worlds? No more rapey gangs and our full complement of constitutional rights. RL in Weatherford, you're on the James Show.
Calm down, James.
Thank you. I need that sometimes. Thank you, RL.
No, you really do. I mean, this isn't what I wanted to say, but he's right. But no, we won't get into that right now. Here's something real quick, though. You said that nobody would support you. Anything happens to you, the clarity that you use on this radio station is not like anything that I've heard of in the United States. And I listen to a lot of different stupid stuff, and this ain't stupid. So if WBAP, after I'm 67 years old, been listening to them since I was probably 9, Bill Mack and all that stuff.
Wow.
If they do anything, I guarantee you start a GoFundMe account, I'll put $1,000 in it that day. And I guarantee you there's 20 or 25,000 other people do the same thing, probably more than that. I don't know what your listenership is. It does, but you don't have anybody stepping out there and talking like you're talking, and you're not just talking. You're bringing facts, figures. You're saying things that. And what I was going to say is that those people in England, the Bobbies don't even have guns. I know I've got enough guns at home to take care to take care of some stuff. They have that kind of crap over here. It's not going to last, especially in Texas. There will be if they want. I don't want to have an uprising. I know that the liberals do, and then they can blame us for that too. They can instigate it and then blame us for it, like they do everything else. Like you said, they don't.
I think we all get what you're saying. First off, thanks for calming me down, RL. Second off, since you have the calmer head here, do you think I'm crazy when I think this is probably happening to some degree in Frisco right now?
So, yes, I believe it's happening. But here's something else. There was a place, and this is before your time. I grew up in North Dallas.
Hang on, I've got to take a break. Can you just hang on for about 3 minutes and we'll finish this?
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
I wanted to hear that story, and I kept interrupting him. So it's my fault, but I have a lot of other good callers here because, we got the rape gang report for the Muslim rape gangs in the UK. What makes you think this isn't going on in Frisco right now? Is there a country where they have gone and colonized and recreated their Islamic Sharia society in this new country and they didn't have rape gangs? Because that would be news to me. Call in and tell me. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. So the report on the UK Muslim rape gangs is out. What makes you think this isn't happening over here? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, we're having our next WBAP party is going to be on July 1st. It's a joint party with Dallas Express. It's for the 4th of July. It's going to be a pro-American get-together at the Longhorn Ice House. There will be live music from Rich O'Toole. Most of it will just be us hanging out and talking, but we'll do a little music for an entertainment session, and you can bring your kids. Costs you absolutely nothing, but if you want to go to the VIP meet and greet, there's a few tickets available. Look for that at DallasExpress.com. Now, if you're not familiar with the story about the UK Muslim rape gangs, the report finally came out this week, and it is estimated over the last few years, 250,000 white Christian girls, many of whom are minors, have been targeted by entire societies of Muslim immigrant men. And, well, their wives were complicit and in the room a lot of times when this was going on. And it's just sort of, their normal thing. You know how in Christian society, how we like to have potluck dinners and we like to baptize people and we put up Christmas trees and we like to decorate for Easter with a bunch of eggs and stuff. And apparently in their cultural norms and mores, they like to go pick up little white Christian girls and just bring them back. We'll just pass them along. It's the funnest thing in the world, apparently. Most normal thing in the world. Rupert Lowe, one of the few politicians in the UK who still has his head screwed on straight, was detailing some of the horrific details found in the report.
Race did play a part and motivated the selection or demographic of the victims. Throughout my exploitation, the other girls I encountered or who were abused alongside me were almost exclusively white.
Oh, wow. So there's a lot of people that are concerned about racism in the United States. All the Carmelo Anthony protesters, you guys were really concerned about racism in America. You told us you're really offended and you fight against racism and you will not stand for racism. You must be furious about this one. For all the people who are having the rally against rednecks and they go make fun of the people who are concerned about the Muslims building a temple or building a mosque or the Hindus building a temple. It's like, well, you're just a bunch of religious bigots. Oh, you're upset by religious bigotry? Let me introduce you to Rupert Lowe again.
Comments were constantly made suggesting that white girls, the Christian girls, were viewed as having fewer morals or lower values, whereas Muslim girls were described by some of the men as having dignity and higher moral standing. These comparisons were used to justify the way I was treated and to further humiliate and control me.
There you go. Religious bigotry. Where are you at on this one, people? Ron in Dallas, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
I was just curious on where's the 250,000 dads and moms and grandparents? Are they rising together and fighting back or doing anything?
So there's a sort of twofold answer for that. One of the things we learned from this report is the girls that were targeted were often targeted because they didn't have a dad around or they were living with their grandparents or they were already in the foster system. So they were picking out vulnerable ones. But the litter of online reporting is the history of that is littered with dads and moms and grandmas speaking up and being systemically silenced because they're being racist or because they're being antipathy and have an antipathy toward immigrants. It was non-woke. So they don't have free speech over there. You go out and you start accusing Muslims of doing something, you get in trouble for being a bigot. And so that was one of the frustrating parts that Tommy Robinson kept trying to bring up was, look, here's another story. Here's this family. I will interview them. I will put it online and I will go around the media, which is largely ignoring it. And I will get this to the public. And he has gone to jail many times for that. And that's his whole bit. So that's part of the story, is that there were a lot of people speaking out. There was just a lot of politicians covering up because they need these votes for power. The media, this breaks their narrative, and so many other institutions just failed systemically over and over. So Ron, that's a big part of it.
Okay, because I'd like to think that if this was happening in Frisco, that there would be a little more of an uprising and that it would get out a little more. That for crying out loud, God bless Texas, we would not be like that. We do have a Second Amendment. We do have a First Amendment. to protect us from such tyranny.
Well, I would like to think so, Ron, but when we had the greatest tyranny of our entire lives during COVID, there was no uprising. When they prevented us from going to church, there was still not an uprising. So I'm not so sure, Ron. We like to talk a big game, but when people come in and infringe our constitutional rights just 6 years ago, we folded like a lawn chair. Well, in the big city, in the country, they just did whatever they want. All right, more on the UK rape gangs. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Frisco, y'all doing okay up there? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And the reason I'm asking is because the report on the UK rape gangs came out, and the Muslim immigrants have raped over 250,000. And this is systemically, this is group rapes. This is where like the whole society and the whole neighborhood knows about it, is in on it, and they don't turn anybody in. And they're cool with it because that's what their religion and their mores and their traditions tell them. And I'm not so sure if we should be importing that into our country. That seems like a no-brainer here. People are still fighting you on it every single day. Hey, maybe we shouldn't be importing rapists. Like, why are you so racist? Well, I'm not really concerned about the melanin in their skin. I'm concerned about my daughters being raped. To the phones we go. Cassie, Argyle, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
James, if the skin color are the ones that are doing this, then yes, we do pay attention to it. And once again, they should not be allowed in our country. We're going to end up just like the UK. Is that what we want?
Heck no.
I would hope the majority of us know. So why are we still not doing a thing about it? Nobody from the Middle East should be here. No one, not one. And I know there probably are some good Muslims out there that have even converted into Christianity. But I'm sorry, we can't help that. We can't help that you're that skin color, and we can't help that you're from the Middle East. But we're smart over here, I hope, because the smart ones are the ones that prevail. And if we don't do something about it, hurt them up, head them out, then we're going to end up just like the UK.
You know, I can't argue with any of that, Cassie. I think you're spot on. I appreciate you calling in. I wish everyone thought like you. Let's do Darlene. Darlene and Terrell, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
I wanted to talk about like Epic City and the different Muslim communities that they're trying to build. They tried to build one out of Kaufman County off I-20, and it got halted. I hope it's completely squashed, but I'm not sure. My question is, with all the research and information that's coming out on the topic you're discussing right now, why can't investigations be done into the Muslim communities that are already established? Because as we know with Epic City, they don't want anybody moving into their community unless they're Muslim. So to me, that seems to go right along with the story that you're talking about right now. Is they're isolated. They're isolating their crimes. They're isolating their lifestyles from the general public. And as long as they're allowed to do that, I mean, they can do whatever they want and nobody's ever going to find out. So I'm real curious how many communities. For one thing, I think we've got a lot of Muslim communities around here we don't even realize we have, that have been established for years that we've ignored and not paid attention to. And I would really like to know if there are any grounds for the government, you know, for law enforcement, whatever, to start investigating these places to see if they're having their own Sharia law courts, if they are abusing and raping women or boys. You know, I don't know if it's just women or not. I mean,
it's not just women. It's about 87% women. The other 13% boys.
It's just sick.
It is.
But I think that there are, when you were talking about it, I think you were the one that said that, like, it's like they're trying to build a culture within a culture. And, you know, we're American. And it really bothers me a lot. I had a 23-year-old family member go to Plano to Collin College, and I would say 70% of them were Muslim. And it was shocking to me because I had to drive her over there, and I was really concerned for her safety. And some of them approached her. And it's a very dominating male attitude that they have, that they come off very sweet at first. And it sounds like, oh, you know, I can take care of you, blah, 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 and all that. But it's a very dangerous situation for Texas and in America right now. And I wish we could have been more aware sooner, because now they've got a very strong foothold. But I believe it. I don't want to say it's secret, but I'm just saying I think there are a lot more communities established, just Muslims with Muslims, than what we're aware of, because people have been so afraid to speak out because of all the DEI stuff that has been enacted.
Well, just make sure every person that you vote for is on board with that. If they're not, go find the candidate that's running against them that is and go support them. That's really all you can do on an individual level. You don't have a whole lot of responsibility, Darlene, because you don't have a whole lot of power. But if thousands of us did that, oh yeah, it'd make a difference. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. We'll continue with more reaction to the report on the UK Muslim rape gangs, because who's to say this isn't happening here already? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. So, our top story of the day, easily the Iran peace deal. And I understand why that would take up most of the bandwidth because, this is war between countries and thousands of people are, have their lives on the line and billions of dollars have been destroyed and whatnot. But I think what might be a bigger shockwave of a story 6 months from now, a year from now, might be the report here from the UK on the Muslim rape gangs. And we've all, been suspicious and cautious and hearing some of the stories and hearing some of the bad tales that have come out of that arena for years. But I've done what you did. We always just think, well, hopefully that's not the norm. Hopefully that's not anything too widespread. Hopefully most of the immigrants are just nice, peaceful people and wouldn't think of doing such horrible things. But it turns out 250,000 white Christian girls, many of whom were minors, were targeted, raped, trafficked, passed around. Some of them murdered, tortured, even worse. The cover-up is almost as bad as the initial crime, where you had to have a wall of silence for the hospital workers, for the social workers, for the police, for the prosecutors, for the judges, for the politicians, for the media. And then you also had to have a vengeful persecution of whistleblowers to keep this quiet as long as they did. Now it's out. It's worse than you thought. What makes you think this isn't happening in Frisco right now? Bart, Gun Barrel City. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Thank you, James. Hey, I just wanted to make two quick points. Number one, the gentleman that called about he kept repeating the line about it's not a religion. I think he was saying that because you were telling him you didn't want to lose your right to religions. And I think he's spot on. It's not a religion. Any ideology that rapes and murders, they're not interested in saving your soul. They're interested in promoting their ideology. And if we don't recognize that and get out of this headlock that the left has got us in, that you've got to be tolerant and passive because freedom of religion, or you're a racist because you won't let my kids kill your kids, or cheating the elections and so forth. If we don't get out of that mentality and recognize that this is not a religion, it's a takeover, then it's already over. They've already won because we're dysfunctional. If we keep that mentality, we are dysfunctional, just like the Dallas City Council was, if you can remember 40 years ago. But, I think the solution is you can't publicly practice it here. If you want to believe it, good, believe it, but you can't have your mosque here. You can't have you can't have that harmful ideology that kills and rapes. And unless we're willing to take that stand, we just need to shut up and say, hey, you won. I don't think there's a political solution to this. And I think the black mark in history, I'm not very optimistic, is that the UK and the United States would not do what had to be done. And that's defend our culture, defend our religion. And we don't have to accept Islam as a peaceful religion.
I mean, you say that. Are you under the impression that I think we have to accept Islam as a peaceful religion?
No, I'm under the impression, though, that you don't want to kick those guys out because you do not want to lose religious.
All right. Well, then
I'm saying,
hang on,
this,
Bart.
It's not a religion.
Bart, but that's not what I believe. So I'll just say it's my fault for not expressing myself better. I'm all in favor of kicking them out. I'm all in favor. First thing we need to do is stop the bleeding. We need to stop them from coming in. We need to stop anyone that thinks like this or shares that ideology from coming in. Number two, everyone that's here illegally, they're out. Everyone that's here on an H-1B visa, that thing gets revoked, they're out. And so I'm not taking a soft approach here. Now, I'm saying for the people that are here, that are Muslim, especially if they're pretty secularized, and if they were like born and raised here, well, to where would you deport Ice Cube? He's a practicing Muslim. So
I don't know.
Right. So you got to do something about them.
How about Yeah, how about London? He can go be funny in London.
Well, that's not what a deporting is. That's an exile. He's from here. Dave Chappelle's from here. We're not going to exile existing Muslims, and we wouldn't be better off if we did exile Dave Chappelle. Or I think the best example is we all grew up with Casey Kasem, and he was a practicing Muslim. We just didn't know it because he didn't grow a long beard and he didn't make his wife wear a headscarf, and he's not sacrificing goats in the town square or whatever the heck's going on, and wasn't part of a Muslim rape game. So we don't have to lose our freedom of religion. We don't have to persecute Muslims that are here. We just have to enforce the immigration law, stop them from coming over, kick out all the ones that are running around in bathrobes, and for the 1% of the population left here that is Muslim, they'll either assimilate or not really cause a lot of problems because there's not a whole lot of them to begin with.
Well, I think that should have been done about 1960, but
they shouldn't have come here in the first place. I totally agree. Why on earth would we ever import people who are okay with rape? 800. Well, we're done with the show. Hey, we have the big party coming up on July 1st. It's our 4th of July party. It's our America's birthday party. We're teaming up with the Dallas Express, and we're going to be up at the Longhorn Ice House, Northwest Highway, kind of centrally located there on the cusp between Dallas and Irving here. Come on out. We'll have a live band, Rich O'Toole. I'll be there for a nice little meet and greet. It's free. You can bring your kids. It's going to be a good time, and I would love to meet you there. Stick around. Mark Levin's next. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP.